Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. So the one that I have is of you standing by some fence, like some fences outside. There's
Yeah.
like a body of water. So you're leaning against
Yeah.
the fence.
Yeah.
Behind you is a body of water, and it's a very flat sort of plain. And far, far, far in the background, you can just see some buildings. Could be silos, but it could be like a city. It looks like it's, I don't know if it's maybe June, maybe August. Doesn't look like it's very hot because you're wearing a kind of a cheongsam shirt or just the top of a, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And you're
Chinese
holding
traditional.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you're holding a book. Can't see the book very well, but you're holding up a book. So take it away. What is this?
Well, this photo was taken in Calgary, just 1 block from my house.
Oh, wow.
There's a river called the Bow River, and that's a major river runs through the city. The book is my first novel, so the title is The House Filler. So the reason I dressed up in traditional Chinese clothes because of the book. That is
Okay.
more related. That's for a magazine that they want to write, announce the news. So they need each author submit a photo. That was the one I submitted.
Oh, great, great.
Yeah.
When was this? When was the book released?
Last October.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's been a year.
Yeah, it's been a year. You're right.
Well, congratulations. Okay, so you wanted to be a dancer, and so you eventually landed in Canada, took up dancing. At some level, you wanted to be an author, so you wrote a book.
I wanted to be an author, a writer, since I was in junior high.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, and what language is the book written in? English?
English, yeah.
Okay. Has it been translated to Chinese?
I'm doing that right now.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
So the book's been out. What is the book about?
It is based on my grandmother's story. So the time span covers from 1920 to 1966. The protagonist, the Golden Phoenix, is based on my grandmother.
Okay. And is it like is it a nonfiction book? Is it a novel? It is a
Historical fiction.
Okay, so you've always wanted to be a writer. Not always, but you wanted to be a writer from very young. But then what happened that tipped the edge or the ledge or the lever or whatever, the switch that made you finally sit down and start writing?
When I always want to study literature and arts, but when I was choosing the major before I went to university, I wanted to study Chinese literature or journalism, but my parents against. They strongly object.
Mm-hmm.
That was really common back when at the time, because to be a writer or a journalist was considered a dangerous
Yeah.
occupation.
Yep.
So then I studied finance and banking, and after my graduation, I landed a job in a college, but in the Department of Agriculture Economics. So when I
Okay.
came to Canada, if I want to get a scholarship, I have to choose the same or similar field. I cannot just say, "Hey, I'm going to study arts." I
Yeah.
had no money, no financing, like nothing, no
Yeah.
portfolio. So then after graduate from University of Saskatchewan, then as immigrants, your first priority is find a job and make a living.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was busy doing that until 2004. I always wanted to write my family story, but because English is my second language and it is extremely hard, it's a huge amount of challenge, I didn't believe I could do it. So at the beginning, I was looking for a ghostwriter.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for a ghostwriter online and put my project up there, and there's some people responded. I remember this gentleman from the US. He basically said, "Okay, I can do this for you. I need to go to live in your house for a year. You need to pay me room and border and everything. Then a flat fee, and then I'll write this for you." But in his response to my email, I found some grammatic mistakes
Right,
in his
right.
writing. At that moment, I thought I had to do this myself, regardless of how hard. There's nobody else could do it. I have to be the one. I had to be the one to do it. So
Amazing.
that's when I, start to give up the um, idea of hire somebody else. So I start to go to writing, to take writing courses, read books about creative writing, start to learn and read extensively, and
Hmm.
start to write
Mm.
little by little. Yeah.
So my first degree, my bachelor's, is in creative writing, as it happens. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We have
Um,
more than one thing in common.
oh, we have many things in
Canadian,
common.
many things in common. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of the book, so why don't you give us a bit of a sense of? I mean, you have this really strong motivation to capture your grandmother's story.
Yeah.
So why don't you, for a listener, convey? I mean, already the fact that you have memories from the Cultural Revolution, that your
Yeah.
father was targeted, that these are so deeply well, wounding and traumatizing. I mean, it's so strong to
Yeah.
as your base, early memories,
Yeah.
and yet that part of you isn't the story that you wanted to tell. So what is so?
Oh,
So why don't you tell us about that about your grandmother and that story of the basically the elements that really make that story want to come out into the world.
actually, when I first finished this novel, it is about three generations. So from
Mm,
grandmother to mother to daughter, and it was 240,000 words long.
mm,
So I couldn't find a publisher, and I didn't know why until I end up with a mentor, and she told me your novel is too long. You need to divide into two or three books. So I divide into three books. The first book become the house filler. So first
got it.
book is about the first generation. Second is about second generation. Third is about third generation. So
Okay,
my own
amazing.
story is in the third book. And yeah, and the first book follows Golden Phoenix journey through wars and two wars. One is the second Sino-Japanese War. The second one was the civil war between communist and the nationalist. And
Hmm.
she faced the poverty. She was illiterate with bound feet, and after her husband passed away, she couldn't feed her five children. Sorry. Um, but the reason the title is the house failure because she missed the ideal age of foot bending. So her feet was 1 inch too large
Mm,
for an ideal size. So that's one reason she missed the marriage, the ideal marriage age, and also because she was trained as a seamstress, and her father kept her at home because she was the breadwinner. That's why she didn't get married until she was 26. But by the time she was 26, all the young men, they were all married because at that time, women got married at between 16 and 18. So she ended up marrying a widower. So in
mm.
Chinese culture, a woman who marries a widower is called a house filler. So she
Oh,
became a house filler, which means like your job is just to fill up the house, like
right, right.
yeah.
Wow,
And
fascinating.
yeah, so when she couldn't feed her five children, she ended up gave her twin sons to the Red Army just for survival, just for
Wow.
survival. And then the Japanese came to her hometown, and her two daughters were missing, and during the chaos, and then eventually she found out where they were. But it's a long, long story. It's about, you know, um, about loyalty, about betrayal, about love, about hate, about um, lots of things. Vulnerability, about suffering, and about come back, like fight back, about resilience.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's with a backdrop of the historical events.
Right.
Uh, yeah.
So since it is based on your grandmother, like how much of her story came down to you from I mean, I don't know from her if she was still alive while you were alive, or if it came down to you through your mom, like, or through your dad. Like, I like how did her story fill your childhood, your growing up?
Well, I heard most of her stories from my mother.
Okay.
I only met her once when I was about like 3 years old, 3 or 4. Then she passed away. But my mother was a storyteller, so she's been telling me her side of family story ever since I remember, like I was a few years old.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in the process of writing this book, I also interviewed my other relatives to check and to verify or to find out. I know it's a fiction, but the fiction also has to be reasonable, has to be
Sure.
logic. So I did a lot of research as well. For some historical events, I it's based on the research I did. But for lots of Golden Phoenix personal story, it is strictly from her story.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 90% of the book are based on truth, and the other
Yeah.
10% is fiction, fictional.
Well, I think like writing fiction for it to be. I mean, even the most like even fantastical fiction has to have a kernel or seed of some raw truth in there.
That's right.
So okay, so the book's been out for a year. Has can you think of a quick and like a case where somebody reached out to you and said, "Hey, you know what? Your book really moved, like either changed my life or really moved me, or or, or made a connection that you didn't expect."
Yes, through the reviews I read on Amazon, on Goodreads, there's one person said this is the best book she has ever read. I was flattered. I'm
Wow.
sure there's tons of good books, but that's what she said. And I once hired a freelance editor, and she said the book changed her life. She didn't
Amazing.
tell me in detail how so, but she said it's really changed her life. And well, lots of Westerners they don't know much about Chinese history during that
Sure.
period of time. And we all know World War II. We know what happened in Europe. We know how American and joined the war. But in Asia, there's not very well. There's lots of book written in Chinese, but
Mm-hmm.
very few are translated into English.
Mm-hmm.
So my Western readers they were always like, holy, we didn't know this. We never
Yeah, no
know.
idea.
Yeah. So I think that in a sense it's pretty it did really good. And also this book is a winner of 2024 Independent Prize Award
Amazing.
for new fiction, and also now it is a finalist for 2024 Canadian Book Club Awards for
Nice.
fiction. The final result will be announced in January, in this coming January.
Amazing. Best of luck, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, so
Thank
we're
you.
gonna have to leave this photo. It's shot because it is Canada and it's I mean Calgary. The sun is off. It's probably afternoon. It could be
Yeah.
morning, but it's probably afternoon, and you it could actually be 9 o'clock at night because the sun sets so late. But okay, we're gonna have to leave this photo and move on to the next.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting.